It's a very great honor for me to be invited to speak with you, because you are the people who are fighting for freedom, and we are only the people who can support you. Genocide Watch, which has been one of the organizations that supports you, was the organization that investigated the killings by the Meles regime in Gambela province. And the more we investigated, the more we realized that these killings were not just of Anuak people, they were also happening all over the rest of the country. There were Somali people being killed in Ogaden. There were people from Amharic origins who were being killed in the Amharic regions of Ethiopia. There were people from all ethnic groups in this country who were being killed under this tyranny. And the more I realized this terrible fact, the more I realized this is a country where this country, our country, the United States, is on the wrong side again. Yeah. I don't know how we managed to get on the wrong side so often, but we did, again. In this case, it's the war on terror. You know, that is the great excuse for all kinds of repression. And the Bush administration especially saw the Meles regime as a way to fight terror in the area, in the Horn of Africa. And it's a fraud, because the terror is being perpetrated by the Meles regime against its own Ethiopian people. What Obang Meto did for me was to make me aware of what was happening. I'll never forget his phone call just before Christmas in 2003. It came out of nowhere, and he said, they've just killed 434 people in Gambela town in our province, and they're still killing. And I said, I'd never known about this before. The more we investigated, the more we looked into it, the more reports we wrote about it, and finally we got more organizations to write about it. A year later, finally Human Rights Watch actually paid attention to it. The more we realized this is a regime that needs to be overthrown. And I don't mean overthrown by some kind of violent revolution. I know that would result in even more bloodshed and even more disaster for Ethiopia. You've had enough killing in Ethiopia. Enough. Mengistu's mass murder, and now this regime. We've had enough killing in Ethiopia. So it is time for real, fair elections to be allowed in Ethiopia, in which this regime can be overthrown. And your place in this struggle is very, very important, because you are the Ethiopian diaspora. You have seen beyond your own ethnicity. You have realized your own unity as Ethiopians. And more than that even, here you are in a country in which you have realized that we are not part of different races. There is only one race in the world, and that is the human race. I want to read to you a poem that was given to me at a meeting that we held just a couple months ago here in Washington. but one that expresses so well what we must keep in mind when we are thinking about what is happening now in Ethiopia. This is a poem by Meles Zenawi, who is, of course, one of the fine poets of Ethiopia. It's called The Eyes Talking to the Ears. I feel like telling to whomever is listening. I feel like telling to whom is able. I feel like screaming because children are dying. I feel like telling about Africans who are fading. I feel like screaming to alert the powers to be in case they are listening. I feel like telling to my sisters in the diaspora about the conditions and what is happening in Africa, the Sudan, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Somalia, the Congo, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Liberia. I feel like screaming without losing my sanity, to be heard by the powers that be in case they are listening at the African Union. Is that the Organization of African Disintegration? Now, she has lost members of her only family, and she has lost people who she knows and who loves. And this is her poem in response to that. It's called Winter's Warmth. When the season is cold, there is still a lot to be done in the world. To hug those who are around, to share a smile with a stranger, and to stare through the windows to explore the dry grass and bare trees. I tell you, there is still a lot to be done, even when the season is harsh and cold. We can still love and keep our world warm. That is why we will win. That is why we will win, because we are working for a force that is bigger than Mr. Meles, that is bigger than any of the dictators of this world. We are working for God. And God is love. Love is God's force personally expressed. Justice is God's force socially expressed. So let us all work together for justice for Ethiopia. Thank you.